Hello and welcome back to Major League Talk Giants edition. Today is Friday, May the 5th, 2023. My name is Henry South. This is episode 11. We're going to be reviewing the series against the defending champs, Houston Astros. So this is our 10th series of the year for which we are in Houston facing off against the defending champion Houston Astros and apparently an angsty Mauricio Dubon. Fun stuff there. First game was pretty close until Sean Jelly decided to pull a jelly and gave up 5 runs in the 7th. Technically, he gave up 4 of the runs, but was responsible for a runner that was on when he got relieved. So 5 earned runs to him. That ultimately allowed the Astros to take the game 7-3. Game 2 saw the Giants shut out the Astros in their own home, winning 2-0. And then game 3 was a decent pitcher's duel with Webb coming out as the winner. Giants take the game 4-2 in the series, 2-1. The starting pitchers for each game were Stripling versus Garcia, DeSclafani versus Hunter Brown in game 2, and then the top 2 ground ball pitchers in the league, Webb versus Valdez for game 3. So for game 1, our pitcher on the mound was Stripling. He had a good start, honestly, to the game. His final line was 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, and 5 strikeouts. So he is improving slowly as the year progresses. He's only had 3 starts so far. This is the best he's had as far as runs allowed. It's also the longest. He's gone 5 innings twice now, 3.1 in one of his other starts. But there is progress there with him. So it's starting to look like he's starting to figure some of the things out he needs to do to be successful with the Giants. And maybe our pitching staff, as far as the trainers and the coaches, are starting to figure out the right way to coach him and get him up and have him be a productive starter for us. It'll be fun to see if he can eventually go into, say, 6 or 7 innings for his starts and limit it to only 3 or 2 runs apiece. Our lineup. We had Wade Jr. at first. He went 2 for 3 with a walk, a home run, and 2 runs. Estrada was at short. He went 0 for 4 in this one with 2 strikeouts. Peterson was DHing. He went 1 for 3 with a home run and 2 RBIs and a walk. Haniger was in left, went 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. Conforto was in right, 0 for 4 with 1 strikeout. Davis was 1 for 3. He was playing third base. He had a walk. Sable was catching. He went 1 for 4 with a strikeout. VR went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He was at second, and then Wisely was in center, went 0 for 3. 5 hits at 32 at bats, 9 strikeouts. I mean, hey, at least it wasn't double digits. Only drew 3 walks in this game, though there were 2 home runs. But Taylor Rogers was the first out of the pen behind Stripling. He only recorded 2 outs in the 6th before Kapler decided to pull him and get Jelly on. Rogers had hit the first batter he faced. He then got a pop out and a fly out before he gave up a single that moved the hit batter over into scoring position. Jelly would get the final out of the 6th. Okay. The 7th inning is where things went sideways for Jelly, and it's not really surprising considering the Astros are top of the league in scoring in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, and the Giants are bottom of the league in preventing runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. We've given over 70 runs in the late innings so far this season. And I'll be honest, the sequence was pretty painful. First batter walks, then Jelly gets a ground out, but that still moves the walked batter over to second. Dubon doubles, scoring the walk. Bregman singles, scoring Dubon. The next batter walks. Then gets to second on a wild pitch. The next batter grounds out, but a run still gets across. We intentionally walked Tucker, and then a single scores the second batter that had walked. So at that point, the score is 6-2. Jelly's pulled, but he's responsible for 2 base runners. And honestly, like the pitches that were getting hit by the Astros, it was a sinker. His sinker was coming in. The Astros were seeing it really well. Guess they got a good scouting report, or they're just major league players and they understand how to hit a sinker. And His final line was only 1 inning pitched, 3 hits, 3 walks, 5 runs. Beck would replace him in the 7th, and the first batter he faces, he gives up an RBI single, and then he gets a strikeout to finally end the disastrous 7th inning. Beck would also pitch the 8th, getting a strikeout and 2 groundouts, and then obviously we didn't score enough to get to a bottom of the 9th. Thus, the world turns. As for the offense, they left 5 on base. Went 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. Peterson got a 2-out RBI with a 2-run home run. Sable had a passed ball. Yeah, so not really a fun game to talk about too much. Let's go ahead and get into Ross Stripling's pitching report. He threw 73 pitches, mostly sliders. He also had 17 changeups and 4 seamers, 9 knuckle curves, and then managed to fit in 3 sinkers. Velocity looks pretty good. 80, almost 85 on that changeup. 92, almost 93 on the 4-seamer. 78 on that knuckle curve. The sinkers are coming in at around 90, and the sliders were 87, almost 87 and a half. Most of his pitches, as far as in reference to like that center line, don't have too much lateral movement. And of course, that knuckle curve's got a nasty drop to it. And most of his release points are over 6 feet. As for the strike zone, it doesn't look like he's really like varying too far to one side or the other. It's almost a straight up and down kind of spread there. At the most, you get some of the pitches that'll come down and then start to go down and out from a righty, but that's about it. He threw 37 of his pitches in the zone, 36 out of the zone, and batters would swing at 41 of his pitches and take 32. The distribution of taken to swinging, as far as the types of pitches, isn't too far off. They took more of his knuckle curves than they swung at. And then they swung at more of his changeups than they took. It's the only like major difference there. He threw 22 balls, 23 strikes, 9 of them called, 14 swinging. So that's fun. Like to see that. 13 foul tips, 10 hits for outs, 5 base hits, and only 2 hard hits. So, like I said, good start for Stripling. Good to see him improving, making progress, and hopefully that just maintains a good positive trend throughout the rest of the season. As for the man calling the balls and strikes, it was someone named Malachi Moore. Overall accuracy of 95%, overall consistency of 97. Overall favor plus 0.04 runs for Houston. I don't really think you can honestly call that favor. I mean, 0.04 runs. Oh no. Impactful missed calls. Top of the 4th, Bielak, I think that's how you say that. Bielak, Bielak to VR. Went out, runners on first and second, 2-0 count. A ball is called a strike. And then top of the 1st, Bielak to Peterson. 1 out, runner on first, 0-0 count. Strike is called a ball. And then top of the 6th, Maton to Haniger. No out, space is empty. First pitch, strike is called a ball. His called ball accuracy, they're saying it was 97%. 3 of the 101 called balls were true strikes. And his called strike accuracy, they're saying 90%. 5 of 48 called strikes were true balls. Okay, so that's game 1. Pretty rough. That got our losing streak up to 4, and it's against the Astros. I was like, okay, well, it's the Astros. Didn't really expect. I was hoping for maybe 1 game. So then we start game 2, and we have Dave Sclafani twirling 1 gem of a game. This man managed to pitch 8 shutout innings against the Astros lineup and set Duvall up for the save. His final line was 8 innings pitched, only 3 hits, no walks, and only 3 strikeouts. That means defense was working really nicely behind him there. That's really cool. You like to see that. Lineup, Wade Jr. at first. He went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and a walk. Estrada was at short. Better game for him. He went 2 for 3. Two walks too, and he scored a run. Peterson was the DH. He went 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run and a walk and a strikeout. Look at that, all the way across the board. Conforto was in right. He went 1 for 3. Flores was at third. He went 0 for 3. But he did draw a walk, and then Slater would come in and take his spot. He'd pinch run for him, and then Slater would go to play left. Sable was in left. He went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and an RBI. And then Davis would come and take his spot in the lineup to go play third. And then Bart was catching. He went 1 for 3 with a strikeout and a walk. Wisely was in second. He went 0 for 3. And then Stevenson, our new center fielder, was 0 for 2, but he did draw 2 walks. So that's cool. Overall 7 hits and 32 at bats. Only 7 strikeouts. Okay. I like to see single digit strikeouts. Like I said, DeSclafani went 8 full innings without allowing a run. So that set Doval up for the save in the 9th, defending a 2-run lead. He earned the save. He struck out 1, gave up no hits or walks. It was his lack of pitch clock awareness that was really the story here. So Joey Bart was just brilliant behind the dish, maintaining his awareness of that pitch clock and maintaining control of this tempo in this game so that it didn't get away from Doval. He ended up using 3 mound visits and 2 3-2 counts to prevent a base runner. And you could see some of his frustration there at the end, especially because he had to use 2 mound visits back to back on the same batter on the same 3-2 count. Because he'd gone up, looked like he probably told Doval, hey, throw this pitch, went back, and Duvall's just taking his time. I couldn't tell if he was really trying to shake him off or not, but Joey's like, come on, we got to go. And finally he looks at the clock. He's like, shit. His hands kind of go up in the air. He hangs his head. He looks he knows that this is going to be the last out. He just needs to get Duvall to throw the right pitch. So he goes back out, gets Estrada to come over, and looks like they're all finally on the same page. Lo and behold, get back to the plate. Duvall throws his pitch. That ends the game. So kudos to Joey for really having that wherewithal, that awareness, and being able to maintain that little bit of leadership, that little bit of control there in that situation. The offense did leave 10 on base and went 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Sable hit a double and a 2-out RBI. Peterson and Conforto grounded into double plays. Slater and Estrada were both caught stealing once, and Estrada managed to successfully steal once. DeSclafani did get an error on an attempt to throw a runner out at first. Oh well, he still only gave up 3 hits over 8 innings. Pitcher report: DeSclafani 109 pitches for his 8 shutout innings, 53 sliders, 36 sinkers, 16 four-seamers, and then snuck in 3 knuckle curves and 1 changeup. Just for the one time, right? His four-seamers averaged at 94. Knuckle curve came in at 84. His sinkers averaged at 93.7. Sliders 87.9. It's mainly his sinkers and his four-seamers that had some lateral movement, some run to them. And then the knuckle curve had the most drop. Decent spread across the strike zone. Mostly like going from away and up to away and down from a righty. 53 pitches were in the zone. 56 were out of the zone. Batters would swing at 54 of his pitches and take 55. Looks like they swung more at his sinkers and took more of his sliders. He threw 39 total balls, 22 strikes, 16 of which were called, 6 were swinging. Of those 6, that was 50-50 sinker slider. 24 foul tips. 21 hits for outs and only 3 base hits. The 3 base hits, 1 slider, 2 sinkers. 8 hard hits. 2 of those were ground balls. 4 of them were line drives. 1 was a fly, and 1 was a pop-up. Beautiful game thrown by DeSclafani. I like seeing how well he's doing this year, especially after the performance from last year, and then he had the surgery. I'm really, really happy to see how well he's doing this year, and it makes me look forward to his starts. Balls and strikes getting called by Mark Wegner behind the dish. His overall accuracy, they have him here rated at 96%, and his overall consistency, 95. Impactful missed calls, top of the ninth, Blanco to Peterson, 1 out, bases loaded. A 1-2 count, strike was called a ball. Top of the 4th, Brown to Bart. 2 outs, runners on second and third. 2-1 count, strike is called a ball. And then top of the 4th, Brown to Peterson, no outs, runner on first, 1-0 count, strike is called a ball. So these impactful missed calls were in our favor, and his overall favor was plus 1.6 runs for San Francisco. His called ball accuracy was 96%. 5 of 130 called balls were true strikes, and his called strike accuracy was 96% as well. 2 of 47 called strikes were true balls. So there's that. So after that game, set us up for Webb versus Valdez to end the 3-game series. And honestly, Webb going up against the Astros lineup and how much he's been giving up home runs to start this year, I was a little nervous. I thought, okay, well, we won our 1 game, 2-0. You know, we couldn't really put up many runs. But surprise, surprise. In game 3, Webb takes the mound, and he managed to induce the right contact for outs and didn't give up a single run until recording 2 outs in the 8th. His final line was 7.2 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. As for our lineup, Slater was in center, then moved to left, and he went 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Estrada was at short. He went 1 for 3 this time with a walk and 1 strikeout. Haniger was in left. He'd eventually be replaced by Stevenson, who would go over into center, and that's why Slater would go from center to left. Haniger went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and an RBI. Davis was at third, kind of a rough game for him, went 0 for 4 with a strikeout. Flores was DHing. He only went 1 for 4, but he did get an RBI. It was a home run. Conforto was in right, 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. That's pretty rough. Hopefully he can get back on track. There was a couple of games there where he was looking really good. I'd like for him to get back to that, especially because it's kind of getting hard defending him to some of my buddies at work who like to really rip on Conforto a little bit, but I think he'll get right back on track here soon. VR was in second. He went 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. He is having a rough go of it right now. But the team and the organization still has faith in him, at least at the moment, and at least publicly. As far as his spot in the lineup, he'd be replaced by Peterson, who would come in a pinch hit, and then Wisely would take his spot at second. Bart was catching. He went 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run. And then Wade Jr. was at first. He went 0 for 1 with a walk. 7 for 30, 12 strikeouts. 12 strikeouts is we got to stop seeing the double-digit strikeouts. We just went 9, 7, 12. Oh, well. But hey, the 4 runs was enough. Webb did have a great game. Kapler decided to pull him, though, before he could get the final out of the 8th. He'd thrown 102 pitches up to that point, though his last pitch was hit for a 2-run home run by Bregman. Okay. So another home run given up by Webb. I think he's up to 8 at this point in the season. Remember last season only gave up 11. It'd be really kind of interesting to see if, like, for the rest of the year, he just doesn't give up a single home run ever again. Like, this is a storyline we're seeing. He already got up to all of his 8 at the beginning of the season, and then just gave up none because he figured something out. Anyway, but the fun part about that is, so that 2-run shot was hit right after, or not right after, but it was hit after Dubon grounded into a double play, which made that double play matter so much more, because that would have been just devastating. But we'll talk about Dubon here in a minute. Duvall would make his second 9th inning appearance, defending a 2-run lead in 2 days. This time without as much pitch clock drama. He did walk the first batter, but then he struck out the next batter and got 2 consecutive groundouts to third. And that would seal the game for us and the series. So real quick, before we get into all the fun stuff, Logan Webb, 102 pitches, like I said, for his 7.2 innings, 35 changeups, 34 sinkers, 31 sliders, and then just for shits and giggles, 2 4-seamers. His changeups, 87.3. His sinkers, 92.4. His sliders, 84.6. And if you watch Webb, you know how much run and drop some of his pitches will have. Slider tends to go more out from a righty, and the changeups and sinkers will come in. And then you look at the spray across the strike zone. Not too much is really high, but they do start to go down and out from a righty. He threw 41 pitches in the strike zone, 61 out of the strike zone. Batters would swing at 46 of his pitches and take 56. They took both 4-seamers. 39 balls, and both of those 4-seamers were balls. 26 strikes, 17 called, 9 swinging. 15 foul tips, 15 hits for outs, and 7 base hits. He did get 8 hard hits, 4 grounders, 1 line drive, and 3 fly balls there. But another good start for Webb, another win for Webb. Hopefully, he starts racking up more wins. Calling balls and strikes was Bruce Dreckman. Overall accuracy, 98%. Overall consistency, 94. Overall favor, plus 0.27 runs for San Francisco. His impactful missed calls. Top of the 4th, Valdez to Estrada. No outs, bases empty, 1-0 count. Strike is called a ball. Bottom of the 3rd, Webb to Bregman. No outs, bases empty. First pitch, a ball is called a strike. And then bottom of the 4th, Webb to Pena. 1 out, bases empty, 1-1 count. A ball is called a strike. His called ball accuracy was 99%. 1 of 95 called balls were true strikes. And his called strike accuracy was 96%. 2 of 54 called strikes were true balls. So decently called game. I like to see that. Real quick before I get into some of my ending comments, I do want to touch on the Dubon situation. And I thought it was kind of funny at first, like when I'm reading it as a Giants fan and as someone who does appreciate Kapler, who does appreciate mostly how things are run. There are some times where as a fan, I get aggravated, but I mean, I'm also not paid millions of dollars to understand as much as they do about the sport and the players. But Dubon comes out in the first game, goes like 3 for 5 with 2 runs and 2 RBIs, and says what he says, that he didn't get treated right in San Francisco. And of course, the next day he walks back some of it and texts the players that he still talks to and says, "Hey, I wasn't talking about you." We all know he's talking about Kapler. And honestly, I liked the responses from everybody else around the team. I liked Kruk and Kipe's responses, and you you look back and you see how he actually performed. It wasn't great. He wasn't amazing or anything. He was making mistakes on the base paths. I can't remember if it was Crook or Kite, but one of them brought up the bunt that he tried to lay down against the Padres when we were up by like 9 or 10 runs. And instead of throwing him under the bus, we defended him, saying, "Hey, the game's still going. It's not over till it's over. We're going to try and do as much as we can to tack on as many runs as we can to win." But all in all, the point was made that players like that will not say anything until they're going to wait until they have a great game against a team that dropped them or traded them away uh, to say something like that. And that's fair. We had to wear it. He did go 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. But hey, next 2 games combined, he goes 1 for 8. Rounds into a double play right before Bregman hits a home run. And that home run could have been the difference between winning and losing. So it is what it is, man. And by the time Altuve comes back, Dubon will not be playing. He will be a bench warmer, and he will come off the bench when necessary in certain situations. Anyway, let's get into some ending comments, right? The series moves the Giants to 13 and 17 overall, 6 and 10 in away games. We're now 5 games back of first due to the Dodgers getting their stride and having a perfect homestand, moving them to 19 and 13. Fuck me. The D-backs are second at 17 and 14. Padres are third at 17 and 15. So Padres about to catch the Diamondbacks. Rockies managed to sweep the Brewers. So they are now 12 and 20, still fifth. That's an interesting thing to think about now that the Brewers are about to come into San Francisco and play them for 3 games. We'll see how their mentality is looking. We're 6 and 4 in our last 10 and have a negative run differential at -18. Not what you like to see. As far as team batting, though, the Giants are third in the National League in home runs at 49 and first in the NL and hit by pitch at 20. Those are the only things that we're top 5 in. Bottom 5, we're bottom 5 in hits at 248 or 13th. Strikeouts at 317, dead last. And batting average at 241, 12th. They sit at 10th in runs, 135, and caught stealing, 6, and walks, 104. The team as a whole really needs to start figuring out this strikeout issue before the All-Star break. That'd be cool. Like to see that. It has started to slow down a little. Earlier, they were on pace for well over 1,800. I think at one point when I looked at the pace, it was almost like 1,850. Now the pace is down to just over 1,700. Still a lot, but top batters for the series, you had Estrada going 3 for 10 with 3 walks and a run. He's having a great season so far, slashing 342, 400, and 509. So I like seeing how well he's doing. He looks good at second. He's looked good at shortstop, too. His arm strength looks to be better than it was last year. He's making really decent throws from short. Also, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Joey Bart. This man is also cooking, going 3 for 6 in the 2 games he played, with an RBI, a walk, a run, and only 1 strikeout. So far, over 15 games, he's slashing 302, 375, 372. Would like to see his power really start to play. He's struck out 13 times in 43 at bats. That's a 30% strikeout rate that I think will start to come down. He's also been playing really well behind the dish this season. Wade Jr., Estrada, Slater, and Bart were the guys with multi-hit games this series. They each got 2 hits apiece on a game. And then one of the stats that I really wanted to look at was the splits between lefty and righty pitchers and how the guys are doing bases loaded as well. So just listening to commentators and other podcasts, it always seems to sound like we just can't hit lefties. And it was really starting to affect my own mentality too. Whenever I'd see a lefty come up, and I would just get nervous and be like, oh, great, now we're not going to be able to get any hits off uh, this entire game if we're just going to be up against a lefty. And then I started to think about it was how accurate is that? How true is that for us? And so I went and looked, and honestly, it's not as like stark of a difference as it sounds like. Um, Straight up, just versus right-handers and versus left-handers, it's 250 versus right-handers, and then batting 226 versus left-handers. Not as dire as it really originally seemed in my head, but also not entirely ideal. And then if you factor in just starters, it starts to get closer. The Giants are hitting 246 versus righty starters and 234 versus lefty starters. And we faced a lefty starter 11 times, and then the other 19 times are obviously righties. So, I mean, it is true that we're hitting righties better than lefties, but I think that's typically across the league. People hit a righty better than they hit a lefty. But it's not as much of a difference, at least as a team as a whole, as it originally was being made out to seem. And maybe I was just interpreting the commentators and other podcasters differently, but from my perspective, from the way it sounded, just based on how they would talk, it made it sound like we were batting like 300 against righties and like 125 against lefties. But no, 250 and 226. So above the Mendoza line. The power is definitely better against righties. So we've hit 40 of our 49 home runs against righties. And then another stat as far as hitting goes, that at least it seemed to start this year that we just can't hit with bases loaded. There have been so many bases loaded situations where just coming away with a strikeout or a ground out or something. And it is pretty stark. I mean, you go and just look, just bases loaded, not bases loaded and 1 out or 2 outs or anything like just strictly bases loaded. This has happened. It says here 32 plate appearances, 30 at bats. We've gotten 17 runs off of this situation, 6 hits. The batting average here 200. We're hitting 200 with bases loaded. The on base percentage as a team only 0.188, and the slugging is only at 433. So again, another scenario where it's not as bad as I thought it was, but it's not great either. Um, it's really interesting when you try and think back in hindsight, like, all right, well, how many bases loaded situations have we really had? How many times have we just not gotten anybody across? Well, we're hitting 200. So there you go. That could stand to be better. But as far as runners on, just strictly runners on, our worst scenario is a runner on third. We're batting 150 there. So team pitching is leading in walks at 80. They are 8th in ERA, 459 as a team. By the way, this is only in the NL. This is not overall. This is only in the NL. And then we're also 8th in strikeouts at 268. Webb's ERA is now down to 3.8. Hopefully, we start to see some shutout starts from him. And then DeSclafani is down to a 2.13 ERA. I think next episode, I'm going to dive more into the pitching splits, kind of like I did here with the hitting splits. I think I'll go into pitching next episode. But once again, I want to thank everybody for listening. I truly do appreciate it. If you have any comments, pointers, tips, corrections, anything, just let me know. I do appreciate any and all feedback that I get. Once again, all the data for this was coming from ESPN, Baseball Savant, Baseball Reference, Ump Scorecards, The Athletic via Grant Brisbane and Andrew Baggerly, and then NBC Sports Bay Area via Alex Pavlovich, and of course, just watching the games. So let's get ready to take on Milwaukee. They just got swept by the Rockies. Maybe we can get a win. Maybe we can even sweep. Let's just enjoy the games. Peace.